This is the 6th year of my secret relationship with movie queen Victoria. When we first started dating, Victoria said that for the sake of her acting career, it was better not to make our relationship public. As her agent, I agreed. I was a fool in love, and I would have agreed to anything she asked. And then, on our 6-year anniversary, Victoria's first love, Julian, came back. Everyone in the circle knows that this little first love is the white moonlight in Victoria's heart. Back then, Victoria broke with her family for the sake of being with Julian, causing a huge scene. Julian, though handsome, came from a family with a bad reputation. They were all thieves. Which parents in this world would want their precious daughter to marry into such a family? In the end, they still separated. Reality is always cruel. When Julian boarded the ferry leaving the country, Victoria chased after him, crying, but she only saw his determined back. He didn't even leave a word for her. Since then, Julian has become a thorn in Victoria's heart, an unhealable wound that she dressed up as a fond memory. Later, Victoria's family sent her into the entertainment industry to act, and this unpleasant love history was buried by time. As the ace agent of a major entertainment company, I got to know her, and we became close. Victoria said she fell in love with me at first sight. She pursued me actively for a long time before we got together. I felt like the luckiest man alive. Because of my connections in the circle, she was able to easily participate in the literary films produced by top directors. I built her career from the ground up, and soon she won the Best Actress award. On the awards night, she stood on stage, thanking me tearfully, but only as her agent. That was Victoria's first award. She was so happy that night, drinking a lot with me. After drinking too much, she drunkenly threw herself onto the bed, hugging my waist and not letting go, like a spoiled child. "Ethan, am I standing high enough now? Can you see me?" She slurred, her eyes unfocused. "Don't leave me, okay? Ethan." Victoria's hands trembled as she gently touched my face, but it seemed like she was looking at someone else in her eyes. Her touch was reverent, almost worshipful. "How could I leave you, baby?" I laughed foolishly along with her, thinking she was just emotional from winning the award. I held her tighter, my heart full of love for her. It wasn't until later, when I saw Julian in person, that I realized how much I looked like him. It was to the extent that with just a thin veil, one could mistake one for the other. The same jawline. The same height. The same dark, intense eyes. No wonder she said she fell in love with me at first sight. No wonder she was so emotional that night and spoke to me in that worshipful tone. His name is Julian. Mine is Ethan. Ethan. Julian. So that's it. She was never calling my name. All these years, the person in her heart has always been him. And what about me? Ethan, who worked so hard for Victoria's career all these years, who sacrificed his own reputation and time to build her into a star. I was a mere substitute. A grain of rice that could never compare to the white moonlight. Ridiculous. Truly ridiculous. The reunion with Julian happened on a talent show. Victoria was the special guest mentor for that episode, and Julian was a contestant. The moment he saw Victoria on stage, his perfect composure instantly collapsed. He even messed up his dance moves, stumbling over his own feet like a novice. "You, contestant, are you afraid of the stage? Or haven't you practiced enough?" One of the other mentors sneered. "Dancing like that, you should go home and sell sweet potatoes. Being a star isn't for you." All the mentors harshly criticized his unprofessionalism because he had no backing. They could smell weakness, and they pounced. Julian bit his lip in disappointment, looking longingly at the only silent judge, Victoria. I stood in front of the backstage TV, watching Victoria sitting there. Although she didn't speak up for him, her eyes were red. The joy of reuniting after a long time and the grievances of years past overwhelmed her. Even as a movie queen, she couldn't control her emotions. It was an expression I had never seen in all our years together. When I got her awards, she smiled. When I fixed her scandals, she was relieved. But this was raw, naked longing. Seeing her like that, my heart suddenly felt sour and bitter, like eating an unripe plum. Extremely uncomfortable. Originally, Julian was supposed to be eliminated by the show. His performance was objectively terrible. But due to Victoria's strong request, he was kept. The entertainment industry is always dark. It runs on favors, money, and power. And Victoria had just spent a huge chunk of her political capital on a man who couldn't dance. That night, all the contestants who advanced were sent to a banquet. Victoria and I were also there. It was full of influential bigwigs and old bosses, old in age but not in their desires. Julian, being handsome and having eyes that seemed to flirt unconsciously, was very popular among these old lechers. He had a certain helpless, wounded quality that attracted predators. Soon, a greasy, obese woman wanted to be his sugar mama. She was a major investor, known for chewing up and spitting out young men. She insisted he drink wine mouth-to-mouth with her. "Oh, handsome boy Tilda, come here and serve your auntie." The fat woman smirked and beckoned, her chins wobbling. Julian's reluctance and disgust were palpable. Watching him squirm made me feel a dark sense of schadenfreude. Good. Let him see what the real world is like without Victoria's protection. But soon, I couldn't laugh anymore, because Victoria's reaction was even more intense than Julian's. Watching Julian being humiliated, she bit her lip and pinched my hand under the table. Maybe she didn't even realize it herself, but her sharp, red nails dug into my flesh. Soon, my palm was bleeding, but she didn't notice. Her entire being was focused on Julian. Just as the fat woman's thick, glossed lips were about to touch Julian's, Victoria couldn't hold back anymore. "Enough!" she shouted, standing up abruptly. "What are you doing? It's disgusting. Attending this banquet is my greatest humiliation." She pushed me hard, actually pushed me, her agent and secret boyfriend of 6 years, out of her way, grabbed the red wine in front of her, and splashed it on the fat woman's face without a word. The room went silent. Red wine dripped down the woman's expensive silk dress. "Victoria, you're drunk," I said quickly, sensing trouble. I tried to grab her arm, to pull her back from the edge. But she ignored me completely. She held Julian's hand and walked out without looking back. The others at the table looked at each other in shock. The fat woman's face turned terrifyingly dark, a mask of pure rage. I thought to myself, this is it. We're done. That fat woman was the show's biggest investor, and Victoria had just humiliated her in front of the entire industry. There would be consequences. Victoria left with Julian, leaving the mess to me. That night, to apologize for her, I drank glass after glass with the investors. I didn't know how much I consumed. I apologized, begged, and groveled. I ended up with a bleeding stomach. Clutching my stomach and collapsing on the floor of the banquet hall, their words echoed in my ears. "Ethan, isn't Victoria your woman?" One of the producers laughed, his voice dripping with mockery. "Getting cuckolded in front of everyone feels better than this wine, doesn't it?" "You can't even control the woman you made famous," another added. "What kind of a man are you?" Before passing out from the pain, I felt someone touch my face gently. A moment of kindness in a sea of humiliation. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, and it was the next day. The nurse said a girl brought me here, probably a kind waitress from the banquet. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. No messages from Victoria. Not one. All night, she hadn't texted or called to see if I was alive. It seems Julian's appearance really made her forget everything. She had forgotten me, her career, and her basic decency. I had no heart to recuperate. What was the point? I pulled out the 4 and left the hospital with my coat. I needed to see her. I needed to know if any of it was real. When I got back to Victoria's house, I found her car in the yard. Perfect. I had something to tell her, not just about our relationship, but also about my contract renewal. I was done being a doormat. But as I approached the front door, I heard voices from the garden. "Julian, don't go, please," Victoria begged. Hearing Julian, I stopped in my tracks. I saw the two of them entangled in the yard, hidden partially by a large hedge. Victoria clung tightly to Julian from behind, her eyes red, pleading and acting spoiled. She had never treated me with such a look. Never. "You already have a fiancé," Julian said coldly, not pulling away but not embracing her either. "After leaving me, you immediately started dating that man for 6 years, right? Do you know, after being forcibly sent abroad by your family, I was beaten by fierce foreigners every day?" He continued, his voice dripping with self-pity. "I barely escaped with my life. Otherwise, I'd be dead. I came back just to survive. I don't understand why my poverty made your mother look down on me." Julian struggled a bit, his tone cold and resentful, as if he had really suffered a lot abroad. But from my angle, hidden by the hedge, his expression was smug. He looked like a small man who had achieved his goal. He was playing her. His indifferent reaction only made Victoria more anxious. She clung tighter, like an octopus, wrapping her arms around his waist. "No, I don't love him," she said desperately. "I don't love that man. He's just my agent." My heart shattered into a million pieces. Just my agent. 6 years. 6 years of love, sacrifice, and secrets reduced to that. "Julian, he just looks a bit like you," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "My heart has always been yours. I don't want him anymore. I only want you. I'll change agents. I'll solve everything. Just please, don't go." No one would have thought the once proud movie queen would be so humble. And no one would have thought that I, Ethan, the top agent in the entertainment industry, was just a substitute. I did so much for Victoria's career, only to end up as someone to be easily replaced. Watching them hug in the yard, my hands trembled into fists. My eyes burned with unshed tears of rage and humiliation. Then Julian looked up and saw me. A slow, victorious smile spread across his face. He bent down and kissed Victoria deeply. I sneered. I didn't push the door open. I didn't cause a scene. I simply turned and walked away. Well, may you two be together forever. A pretentious coquette and a simp. You deserve each other. Victoria, between us, who replaced whom isn't certain yet. But I promise you, you will regret this. Since that day, negative news and gossip about Victoria have been constantly emerging online. It started as a trickle, then became a flood. Among the most sensational was the rumor that she was allegedly keeping a young lover hidden in a luxurious apartment. A few days ago, paparazzi caught her little boyfriend, the same Julian whom Victoria had staunchly defended on the talent show. The photos were crystal clear, the two of them holding hands, kissing outside a private cinema, looking very much like a couple in love. Julian's dark past was soon uncovered by netizens. The internet detectives went to work, and what they found was damning. For instance, both his parents had been imprisoned for theft. Julian had allegedly impregnated a classmate in high school, dropped out, and became a street thug. There were police reports, school records, and testimonies from former classmates. Public opinion was boiling over. The internet was full of insults towards this disgraced celebrity, and Victoria's own fans were publicly denouncing her. What? Victoria chose such a boyfriend? He's just a scumbag, one fan wrote. You don't understand. It's just like a rotten pot with a rotten lid. Two of a kind, another commented. Victoria must be trash too. I used to think she and her agent were a couple, a third added. The agent is so handsome. She must be blind. In the past, as soon as such rumors started to surface, I would have had the PR department handle it. I would have killed the stories, paid off the reporters, and controlled the narrative. That was my job. That was what I did best. But this time, I didn't intervene. I sat in my office, watching the chaos unfold on my computer screen, and did absolutely nothing. I allowed the scandal between Victoria and Julian to dominate the top search results. I let the rumors multiply and mutate. From an agent's perspective, an artist with ulterior motives should be left to grow wild, like weeds outside. Over time, a wildfire will naturally burn her to the ground. You don't prune a weed, you let it choke itself. From the perspective of a lover of 6 years, Victoria was the one who was unkind first. So she couldn't blame me, Ethan, for watching indifferently. She made her bed. Now she could lie in it. Colleagues and old friends from the industry saw the news and called to ask me about it. They wanted the inside scoop. They wanted to know if I was okay. I simply responded over the phone, I'm not sure. Victoria and I have already ended our contract. My voice was calm, professional. No one could hear the anger simmering beneath the surface. 3 days later, with the public opinion still raging online, I received a call from Victoria. Ethan, what kind of agent are you? She screamed into the phone. Her voice was shrill, hysterical. The insults against me online could pile into a mountain. Are you just sitting there doing nothing? Or are all these online attacks against me you're doing? You are truly malicious. On the other end of the line, She was furious and relentless with her scolding. Clearly, she had been driven mad by the online abuse over these days and suddenly remembered she had an agent. The irony was breathtaking. "But did you ever think of me, your boyfriend of 6 years, when you were having fun with your white moonlight these past days? Did you think of me when you called me just my agent?" "Miss Victoria," I said, my voice cold and calm, "I think you've been too busy to remember. Our contract expired a long time ago." I sneered on the other end of the phone, calmly facing her tantrum. It felt good to be in control for once. "What? When did it expire?" "I didn't know," she sputtered, caught off guard. "Just when you were being all lovey-dovey with your white moonlight in the garden," I said. I let that sink in. I wanted her to know that I had seen everything. I had heard everything. Seizing the moment of silence, I continued. "We're finished. In terms of work and feelings. We're over in every possible way." After saying that, I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I blocked her on every platform: phone, email, social media. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be cut off from the person who had built her entire career. The world finally felt quiet. My heart felt incredibly at ease for the first time in years. Later, to escape the online abuse, Victoria disappeared from the internet for a long time. She deactivated her social media accounts. She stopped attending public events. She went into hiding, presumably with Julian, licking her wounds. By then, I had already resigned from that entertainment company. I walked into my boss's office, laid down my resignation letter, and walked out without looking back. I had spent 6 years building Victoria's career, and I had nothing to show for it but a broken heart and a bleeding ulcer. The entertainment industry is full of smart people. As soon as the news of my resignation as an ace agent came out, I became a hot commodity for various major companies. They knew my track record. They knew what I could do. Soon, companies with generous offers proactively reached out to me. I had my pick of the litter. Half a month later, at a film festival, I saw Victoria again. She was walking the red carpet with Julian, their arms intertwined, looking extremely intimate. They were putting on a show for the cameras, all smiles and stolen glances. But I noticed the details that others missed. Without me, her dress was the cheapest option available. The designer labels had abandoned her. Her jewelry was borrowed, not bought. Her hair and makeup were amateurish. She looked like a faded copy of her former self. A dense array of microphones, blinding flashlights, and aggressive reporters swarmed them. "Hello, Miss Victoria. Are you and Mr. Julian walking the red carpet together to officially announce your relationship?" A reporter shouted. Facing the camera, Victoria smiled shyly, snuggling up to Julian. She looked like a lovesick teenager, not a mature woman. Julian smirked and kissed Victoria in front of the cameras. It was a performance, calculated and cold. "Let's keep it a secret for now," he said, his voice dripping with false modesty. "I want to announce this good news on the award stage." Though he said that, it was basically a confirmation of their relationship. The internet may have a memory, but it's clearly not a good one. The crowd applauded and cheered, already forgetting the scandals of the past weeks. But as I stood not far away, those who knew me laughed. After all, for the past 6 years, people in the circle knew I was Victoria's boyfriend. They had seen us together at private events. They had heard the rumors. Now, I had become the well-known cuckold. The man whose woman had left him for a washed-up pretty boy. As I was thinking this, a reporter seemed to read my mind. "I heard that Victoria's agent, Mr. Ethan, has always been rumored to be her partner," the reporter asked loudly. "Is this true? Or is your relationship with Julian an affair?" The sharp question made Victoria's face turn pale. She couldn't control herself. Her eyes darted uncontrollably towards my corner of the red carpet. She was looking for me. This caught the reporter's attention. In the next second, microphones were thrust in front of my face. "Ah, Mr. Ethan is here too," a reporter exclaimed. "Can you give a brief response?" Victoria's gaze was like needles on my body. Full of panic. Full of fear. But more than that, it was a threat. She was afraid I would say something detrimental to her and Julian in public. She was afraid I would expose her secrets. But facing the cameras, I would never lose my composure like her. I had too much class for that. Nor did I want to be the target of criticism by airing dirty laundry in public. So I just smiled gracefully. "Sorry, I have resigned," I said simply. Leaving only those words, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence behind me spoke volumes. Later that night, I sat in the backstage lounge. An organizer handed me a list. "Mr. Ethan, here is tonight's winners list." In the Best Actress column, it was Victoria's name. Oh, I remembered. We hadn't fallen out yet at that time. So with my connections and my influence over the judging panel, her poorly performing movie was slated to win an award. I had arranged the whole thing as a surprise for our anniversary. But now, she had foolishly severed ties with me. She thought that having won Best Actress once, she was the queen of the entertainment industry. She thought she didn't need me anymore. But she wasn't even worthy of being a foot washer now. Someone like her, worthy of being Best Actress. I said, pointing at Victoria's name. I looked coldly at the organizers, making them tremble. After all, they got the hosting rights because of my influence. I owned them. "Then, shall we change it?" they asked cautiously, eager to please me. I nodded. My gaze scanned a row of actresses on the list, finally settling on a familiar face. A face I hadn't allowed myself to think about in years. Seeing her name, I felt a sudden surge of emotion. "No," I said, changing my mind. "Let's choose based on merit. Who truly gave the best performance this year?" The organizers looked confused but nodded. They would do whatever I said. The awards ceremony began as scheduled. I sat in the front row, calm and collected. Soon, it was time to announce the Best Actress. And now, the winner of the Best Actress at this film festival is, the host announced, drawing out the suspense. Because of my previous promise, Victoria was confident. I could see her from the corner of my eye, subtly straightening her posture, preparing to stand up and accept her award. "Ha! Fool. You've already betrayed me, and you still think I'd let you win the award and announce to the world that you cuckolded me? Or do you really believe you have what it takes to win Best Actress on your own merit? The Best Actress is," the host paused dramatically. "Let's congratulate Amelia." The camera focused on a serene, radiant woman under the spotlight, Amelia. She seemed stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. It took her a moment before she stood up, her hand over her heart, and smiled as she walked to the stage to accept the award. Behind me, I felt a venomous glare pierce towards me. I didn't even bother to turn around. I knew it was Victoria's silent curse. Let her hate me. Her hate meant nothing now. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur of polite applause and forced smiles. I kept my composure, nodding along as various awards were handed out. But my mind was elsewhere. It was on the woman who had just won Best Actress. Amelia. My first love. The one I had pushed away years ago to protect her. After the ceremony ended, I made my way toward the restroom, needing a moment of solitude to collect my thoughts. The hallway was quieter here, away from the flashing cameras and chattering crowds. But before I could reach the door, a familiar voice stopped me. "Ethan." I turned. Victoria stood there, blocking my path. Her face was twisted with rage, her beautiful features contorted into an ugly mask. She looked nothing like the elegant movie queen I had once loved. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice shaking with fury. "You clearly said the Best Actress award was mine. After knowing each other for so long, can't you bear to see me happy?" I looked at her beautiful face, once a source of affection, now only disgusting to me. The entitlement. The arrogance. The complete lack of self-awareness. "I've told you before, Victoria," I said, my voice cold and even. "You became a Best Actress because the man behind you was me. Without me, you are nothing." I looked at her with disdain, showing a dismissive expression that hit her arrogant pride hard. Her face flushed red with humiliation and anger. "You bastard," she spat. "You just want revenge, right? Ha ha. Let me tell you, I'll be fine without you." As she spoke, her expression turned frenzied with shame. Her eyes were wild, unhinged. And then, she raised her hand to hit me. She actually thought she could slap me. I grabbed her wrist sharply. Then, without hesitation, I slapped her back. The sound echoed in the empty hallway. A red mark bloomed on her cheek. You dare hit a woman?" She held her face, looking at me in disbelief. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I sneered, wiping my hand as if touching something dirty. I don't hit good women. But for a slut like you, I hit one when I see one. She gasped, stumbling backward. Get lost, I said, my voice ice. This is the men's restroom. Do you want to be on tomorrow's headlines? Victoria attacks men's restroom. Watching her flee in panic, her high heels clicking frantically against the marble floor, I spat on the ground and straightened my jacket. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a cold, satisfying emptiness. I prepared to return to the venue, but as I turned the corner, I heard a familiar voice. Ethan. I stopped in my tracks. Amelia stood in the hallway, her white gown glowing under the soft lights. She was even more beautiful than I remembered. Time had been kind to her. She looked at me quietly, her dark eyes unreadable. Did you give me this award? She asked, her voice soft but direct. Ethan, are you planning to use this award to crush me again? Amelia was my first love. We met years ago at a banquet, of all places. I was there trying to secure film investments for my clients. She was an actress brought by the production team, playing a minor role. She was nobody. But then, a Colboss investor, a vulgar, wealthy man with more money than manners, started leering at her. He wanted to take advantage of her. The national goddess, they called her. Amelia had a face as pure as jasmine, untouched and innocent. At that moment, her face was flushed red from the man's humiliation, yet she refused to yield. She was more like resilient reeds than a delicate flower. She rejected the Colboss's room card. In response, he had her pressed onto the table in anger, shouting many filthy insults. Stupid slut. Out here to entertain, what are you pretending for? He roared. I'll take care of you right now. The Colboss had money, and no one dared to move against him. No one except me. Bang! I picked up a wine bottle and smashed it on the old pervert's head. The red liquid, I couldn't tell if it was wine or blood, splattered everywhere. The man crumpled to the ground, screaming in pain. Mr. Zhao, I said, squatting down and patting his face condescendingly. Acting like a hooligan in front of me. Isn't that too much? When he saw my face clearly, his eyes widened in recognition. He gasped, scrambled to his feet, and fled. Because I am Ethan, the sole heir of the sterling business empire. Being an agent was just my hobby. My family's wealth and power dwarfed his coal money. Amelia was very grateful for my rescue. We became good friends, then more than friends. At first, I was curious, because in the entertainment industry, few women remain pure. But Amelia was famous for not succumbing to the unspoken rules. Despite her breathtaking beauty, she could only get small roles because she refused to sleep with producers and directors. I love acting, she told me once, her eyes shining. Not being a star. That was exactly the answer I wanted to hear. I looked at Amelia, her bright phoenix eyes shining with love and dreams like stars in the sky. And I was the person who could easily pluck the brightest star from the sky for her. So naturally, she became my artist and my lover. She was the high-cold goddess in the eyes of fans, as elegant and pure as a swan. But when facing me, she was a shy, simple girl. Many times in the middle of the night, holding her slender waist and kissing her, I could feel her gentle trembling as she shyly nestled in my arms. Ethan, I love you, she would whisper, her soft voice like sweet candy. I love you so much. No man could resist that. So every night, the kisses became more passionate. The love became more intense. But then, we broke up. In those years, with my connections and manipulations, Amelia became a hot commodity in the entertainment industry. She was on magazine covers, starring in major films, walking red carpets. And it was during this time that I suggested our breakup. A drastic, cliff-edge breakup. Without me to rely on, Amelia's resources plummeted. She returned to playing minor roles, subject to the whims of others. She lost everything I had helped her build. Why, Ethan? She had asked me back then, her eyes filled with tears. Yesterday, you were talking about proposing to me. Today isn't April Fool's Day. This joke isn't funny. It wasn't because she was treated coldly by the crew. It was because of our inexplicable breakup. I turned my head away, unwilling to look at her. Hurtful words spewed forth from my mouth like venom. Why? Because I'm tired of you, I said cruelly. Ha, you're such a bumpkin who's never seen the world. A little sweetness, a wave of the hand, and you come running. Amelia, look at your background. Everything you have is because of me. What right do you have to be with me? My cruel words would have made an ordinary girl cry and run away. But Amelia just stood there, looking at me. She shook her head, her red eyes full of sorrow, like a river flowing against the current. She stepped forward and hugged me. Her tears soaked my shirt. This was the most humble posture for the once proud her. I don't believe it, she whispered. If you're really like this, why did you save me back then? You know I was with you not for fame or fortune. I sneered, lifting her chin and lightly patting her face in a humiliating gesture. I just wanted to see you rise to the top and then fall back to the dust overnight. It's very amusing. The taste of being lifted up and then destroyed. Isn't it great? This is who I am, and there's nothing you can do about it. With that, I pushed her away forcefully. I pulled out $1 million check from my pocket and threw it in her face. Get lost. Breakup fee. Keep it. Amelia stood there frozen, the check fluttering to the ground at her feet. And I strode away without looking back. On the way out, it was pouring rain. I stared at the scenery outside the car window, silent. Only the driver that day knew that the young master cried with the rain. I had pushed away the only woman I ever truly loved to save her father's life. And I had hated myself every single day since. Now, years later, I met her again in this arena of fame and fortune. The power of the white moonlight is indeed immense. And Amelia, who once resembled a delicate jasmine, now looked more like an enchanting white rose. She had grown stronger, more resilient. The moment I saw her, my heart began to race uncontrollably. Amelia, I began. After a long separation, I wanted to ask her how she had been all these years. How her movies were going. I wanted to explain the misunderstandings of the past. But the usually eloquent me found myself at a loss for words. In the end, I only managed to say, "No. This is what you deserve." These words were true from the bottom of my heart. After our breakup, Amelia had endured all these years on her own. She had clawed her way back up without my help. She is an excellent actress, the best among the line of actresses. She deserved a Best Actress award more than a vase like Victoria. Do you think I would believe you? Amelia said, her voice sharp. People don't fall into the same river twice. After 10 years, her eyebrows and eyes were just as I remembered. Amelia still had that proud and aloof demeanor. But now her eyes were slightly red, and she was biting her lip as she questioned me. Or do you see me as a tool to make Victoria jealous? She added. Victoria? What does she have to do with this? I frowned and shook my head. How can you compare to her? I meant that a superficial vase like Victoria could never compare to Amelia. But my words came out wrong. Amelia frowned at my words, clearly misunderstanding me. She lifted her dress in anger and walked away, her high heels stomping on the floor. Sigh. After all these years apart, her temper has only grown. Congratulations on winning Best Actress, I called out to her in the empty hallway. The only response was the sound of her high heels clacking away. If anything, she stomped harder in response to my words. All right then. Still so adorable. News of Amelia winning Best Actress quickly hit the entertainment headlines. An actress without any backing or connections achieving such success would inevitably attract rumors and jealousy. And this time, she had offended the narrow-minded Victoria. For a while, headlines such as Amelia steals Victoria's Best Actress title and Amelia becomes a toy for a big shot flooded the internet. With Victoria secretly hiring internet trolls to manipulate public opinion, the online comments were overwhelmingly negative. Oh my God, she's so shameless. One comment read, "This Best Actress award clearly belonged to our Victoria. How can this seductive vixen be so hateful? Ha ha, pretending to be pure and innocent, but who knows how many people she slept with behind the scenes," another added. Yeah, I heard that the award was originally Victoria's. Her name was even engraved on the trophy, but Amelia snatched it away. Poor Victoria. Amelia, get out of the entertainment industry. Amelia, get out. Amelia, get out. The overwhelming negative news, vicious insults, and filthy language weighed down on Amelia like a mountain. It seemed that overnight, she became the biggest sinner in the industry. All of Victoria's misfortunes were blamed on her. I scrolled through the absurdity of the online world in my office, coldly smiling. Victoria had no idea what she had just unleashed. "Mr. Sterling." My assistant knocked on my door. "Is it time?" I nodded. "Yes, it's time." Soon, as the insults reached their peak, an influential blogger in the industry spoke up for Amelia. But watching the movie, Amelia's performance was indeed excellent, the blogger wrote. She brought the small role to life, much better than that vase Victoria. Has everyone forgotten what Victoria said at the red carpet? In the red carpet interview, Victoria said she had good news to announce on stage. But at that time, no one should have known who the actual winner was. How could she be so certain she'd be on stage? Dear audience, have you figured out who the real protagonist of this drama is? This influential blogger's words shifted the public opinion at the height of the insults. Suddenly, people started asking questions. Then, the opportunistic netizens started a tug-of-war. "But Amelia must have a backer," another comment countered. "I'm a staff member, and I saw her backstage being overly familiar with a high-ranking man. Are there any pure women in the entertainment industry? They are all corrupt. If she's innocent, she should prove it." These comments reminded me of something. It was time to mend fences with someone. And it was time to make things official. A few days later, Victoria and Julian stood in front of me, hand in hand, looking smug. They had tracked me down at a charity gala, determined to gloat. The online backlash against Amelia was still escalating. It seemed Victoria and Julian had invested a lot of money in this campaign. They were determined to get their revenge on me by destroying Amelia. Looking at Victoria's gloating face, I felt a deep sense of unfamiliarity and even a strong aversion. How was I so blind to have spent 6 years with someone like this? Now it seemed she and that pretty boy Julian were a perfect match. I was the lucky one to escape this misery. "This kind of tactic is like harming yourself to hurt your enemy," I said calmly. "Amelia won't care. And I just see you both as a pair of perfect fools." "What did you say? You dare to insult me?" Julian snarled. Sure enough, Julian, who was nothing more than a thug underneath his pretty face, immediately turned into a rabid dog at my words. He shoved Victoria aside and raised his fist to hit me. Dealing with someone like him, I wouldn't even dirty my fingers. So I pointed behind him and said, "Oh, look. When did the reporters get here?" At the mention of reporters, Julian's demeanor instantly changed. He dropped his fist, smoothed his hair, and transformed into an obedient, smiling boy. Victoria had put in a lot of effort to clean up his image, explaining away his previous scandals as rumors. He couldn't afford to be caught being violent. But when he turned and saw no one behind him, his face twisted back into a snarl. "You dared to trick me." Enraged, Julian lunged at me like a beast devoid of humanity. This time, he didn't hold back. Just as his fist was about to connect with my face, a loud click was heard. This time, real reporters had arrived. I took the punch. I let his fist collide with my cheek, and I let myself stagger backward dramatically. But Julian's violent behavior was caught live on camera by at least a dozen paparazzi who had been tipped off by my assistant. In an instant, all of Victoria's painstaking efforts to rebuild Julian's image were shattered. Wasted. They were back to square one, but worse. Now there was video evidence of Julian assaulting someone. "Ethan, we've known each other for so long," Victoria said after the reporters left, her voice softening. "Do you really have to push me this far? If you're still angry, still jealous, then I'll apologize, all right? If you want, I can." Her voice trailed off suggestively. She was trying to manipulate me. "Can what?" I asked, genuinely amused by her audacity. "You don't think I'm still pining for you, willing to be your secret lover like before, do you? Victoria, it's morning. It's time to wake up from your daydream." I had never seen someone so shameless. She had humiliated me, discarded me, and now she wanted to use me again. As security escorted her out, Victoria was still shouting at me. "Ethan, if you help Amelia bully me, I will make sure neither of you has it easy." A joke. Who will make whose life difficult is yet to be determined. Later that day, Amelia was applying medicine to my bruised cheek. After the commotion, I didn't know how long she had been standing outside the door watching. She only came over after everyone had left. "Hiss, Be gentle, I said, wincing. Now you feel the pain, she said, her voice cold but her hands gentle. Why didn't you dodge the punch earlier? Did it make your heart ache? I asked, looking up at her. You're such a smooth talker, she said, her cheeks flushing. I wasn't worried. But her hand trembled a bit as she applied the medicine. When I held her hand, she didn't resist. Instead, her eyes reddened. Victoria targeted you, I said softly. And I'm sorry you had to suffer, Amelia. Hearing this, Amelia's previously straight back suddenly softened. She looked very aggrieved. After all, she earned this award purely through her own merit. But Victoria's enraged jealousy had subjected her to online abuse. All those insults, like snowflakes, slowly gathered into a snowball that could crush a person completely. Amelia had been bearing all this alone, without confiding in anyone. My single expression of concern made her emotions completely collapse. She sniffled, crying as she threw herself into my arms. I stroked her hair and gently wiped away her sparkling tears. Lissy, I said, using my old nickname for her. Let's get back together. I held Amelia tightly, as if she were a precious treasure. Those 6 years with Victoria, although professionally fulfilling, had left me with a sense of disconnection. I hadn't felt the feeling of love for a long time. Until the day I reunited with Amelia, my heart pounded, and I understood the meaning of love again. Are you lying to me again, Ethan? She asked, her voice muffled against my chest. Are you going to deceive me like before? Are you going to lift me up high and then let me fall hard again? She wiped her tears, questioning me softly, but she was still unwilling to leave my warm embrace. Is your father's uremia cured? I asked quietly. Amelia froze. She didn't expect me to know about it. A kind person helped, she said slowly. How did you know? Could it be? I sighed and told her everything. I had felt aggrieved and bottled it up for a long time. Back then, Amelia's father was suffering from uremia and urgently needed a kidney to stay alive. At that time, her career was at its peak, but she didn't tell me, to avoid worrying me. With her connections, where could she find a compatible kidney? Meanwhile, someone informed my father about my relationship with Amelia. He was a businessman who looked down on actresses. He used this to coerce me into leaving Amelia. I still remember my father's authoritative face. He said that if I left that woman and agreed to pursue Victoria, whose family he had business ties with, he would help find a suitable kidney for Amelia's father and cover all the expenses. At that time, I hadn't taken control of the business yet. I had no choice but to leave Amelia with the harshest words possible. I had to make her hate me so she wouldn't come looking for me and discover the truth. As I spoke, I noticed my chest was wet. Looking down, I saw that Amelia was crying. Just like when I broke up with her back then. Amelia, do you still blame me? I asked, gently holding her face, full of tenderness. I do blame you, she said, hitting me lightly with her fists, her voice still choked with tears. I blame you for not telling me earlier. Amelia and I got back together, but the news exploded again. This time, the headline was even more vicious. Shameless woman hooks up with Sterling family's old boss, caught in the act of being a mistress. The accompanying video indeed showed Amelia getting into a car belonging to the Sterling group. There was even some blurry, suggestive footage of her embracing an older man. The implication was clear: Amelia was sleeping with my father, the elderly patriarch of the Sterling Empire, to get ahead. Upon checking, I discovered the truth. It was footage from a TV drama over 10 years ago. Someone had used AI to swap the faces. The woman in the video was not Amelia. And the man was not my father. But the internet didn't care about the truth. They only cared about the scandal. The comments were even more interesting. Wow, Amelia really does have strong backing, her, one commenter wrote. That old Sterling man is over 70, and she still wants to sleep with him. She must be starving. TSK, 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 another added. Such a woman will stop at nothing to get what she wants, even if it means eating anything. She used to pretend to be pure and innocent, but she's just a slut after all. These filthy comments gave me a headache. I closed the video and immediately sent a link to the group's legal department. But more than that, I was furious. Someone had dared to drag my father's name through the mud. Meanwhile, I received a text from an unknown number. I knew it was Julian. "You're still far from being able to fight us," the text read. "These idiots. The scheming in the entertainment circle is just child's play to me. But daring to mess with the Sterling Group and my dad, they were really kicking a steel plate. They had no idea who they were dealing with." As the online noise continued, I had Amelia remain silent. I told her to stay off social media, not to respond to any comments, and to trust me. I was going to handle this. Meanwhile, the Sterling Group issued 2 news releases. The first was a formal statement declaring that we would take legal action against the rumor-mongers. It included a lawyer's letter with specific names. The defendants were clearly stated: Victoria and Julian. We were suing them for defamation, malicious fabrication, and emotional distress. We were going after every penny they had. The second release was an official announcement of my relationship with Amelia. The post was short, only a few words, no backing. Just a good wife. Accompanied by a picture of our marriage certificate. I believe there is no more dignified way to announce love than having it on the front page of a major corporate website for 7 days. The Sterling Group's website. The most visited business portal in the country. And this dignity was what I wanted to give Amelia after all the grievances she had endured over the years. No more secrets. No more hiding. She was my wife, and the world would know it. But this was far from enough. Victoria and Julian had tried to destroy Amelia's reputation. Now, I would destroy theirs. I used my connections in the entertainment industry to dig up every scandal Victoria and Julian had ever been involved in. And I released it all at once. First, Victoria. I brought up her cheating on me with Julian while we were still together. I had photo evidence, text messages, and witness testimonies. I revealed that she had won her first Best Actress award through my manipulation of the judges, not on her own merit. I exposed her fraudulent charitable donations, where she had claimed to give millions to orphanages but had actually donated nothing. All of this, I had previously suppressed to protect her career. Now, I released it all without mercy. Then, Julian. His carefully crafted new image as the misunderstood bad boy collapsed overnight. The fat woman from the banquet, the one Victoria had humiliated, still held a grudge. She was more than happy to provide information. She prepared a bombshell and revealed Julian's numerous misdeeds abroad. It turned out that Julian was not driven away by Victoria's family back then. He had taken money from Victoria's family, a large sum, a go-away payment, while also hooking up with an American woman and living it up abroad. And according to the timeline, he was with the American woman while he hadn't broken up with Victoria yet. The two even had a mixed-race son abroad, living a carefree life on Victoria's family's money. This time, he returned because he was caught cheating on the American woman while she was pregnant. He was beaten up by her brothers, fled the country, and came back to stage a reunion with Victoria for her money and connections. I held Amelia as we finished reading the entire scandal on the computer. I couldn't help but applaud. "Amazing," I said. "Truly more dramatic than a movie." Within 24 hours, Victoria and Julian were wanted by the police for malicious defamation. The lawyer's letter had been upgraded to a criminal complaint. The evidence of their coordinated online attack against Amelia was undeniable. They had hired bots, paid influencers, and fabricated evidence. It was all traced back to them. I heard that after everything was exposed, Victoria and Julian had a huge fight. The details were murky, but the police report was clear. In a fit of rage, Victoria lost control. She grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stabbed Julian in the stomach. The police, responding to a noise complaint, arrived at their house to find Julian lying in a pool of blood, barely alive. Victoria was nowhere to be found. She had fled. The former movie queen had turned into a fugitive. A truly lamentable turn of events. Oh, no. I corrected myself. She was no longer a movie queen. The awards of a disgraced artist had long been revoked by the committee. They were preparing to reissue the awards at the upcoming film festival. To Amelia, of course. I sat in my office, staring out the window, feeling a strange sense of peace. It was over. Victoria had gotten what she deserved. Julian was in the hospital, under police guard. The online trolls had scattered, deleting their comments and apologizing profusely. Amelia was safe. Amelia was mine. And we were going to walk the red carpet together at the film festival, as husband and wife, as the king and queen of the industry. But before that, There was one more loose end to tie up. Before accompanying Amelia to the film festival, I went to the dressing room to check on her. The event was the biggest of the year, and I wanted everything to be perfect. Her dress was a custom creation by a famous designer, white silk embroidered with silver thread flowing like water. Her jewelry was borrowed from the Sterling family vault, diamonds that had belonged to my grandmother. She looked like a queen. She looked like my wife. But as I entered the dressing room, I sensed something was wrong. A shadow moved in the corner. A figure was hiding behind a rack of clothes, hunched and trembling. When I dragged the figure out from the corner, I realized it was Victoria. She looked haggard, filthy. She was wearing torn clothes, her hair was matted, and she emitted a foul odor. She looked like a beggar, not a former movie queen. She must have been hiding in some garbage dump to evade the police these past few days. I pinched my nose in disgust and shielded Amelia behind me. Amelia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, but she stayed calm. Victoria's gaze was as venomous as a wolf's. Her eyes were wild, bloodshot, unfocused. She looked like a woman on the edge of madness. "Ethan, please save me," she whimpered, stumbling towards me with her hands outstretched. "My family has abandoned me. No one wants me. Don't you still love me? Please, save me." She tried to grab my arm, but I stepped back. Her smile was uglier than crying, a grotesque mask of desperation. "I'm married now, lady," I said coldly. "What delusional dream are you still having?" "Ethan," she shrieked, her face contorting. "You ungrateful scoundrel. Without me, the movie queen, what would you be as an ace agent? I am your glory, your badge of honor. And that vase behind you is nothing." She pointed a shaking finger at Amelia, calling me fickle, "But you left me and found her." Seeing my heartless demeanor, she tore off her facade. She looked mad, completely unhinged. Her chest heaved with ragged breaths. I sneered. I stepped forward and grabbed her throat. Not hard enough to choke, but hard enough to make her stop. I looked down at her with cold fury. "Victoria, I did consider it," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "I thought about loving you sincerely. I thought about marrying you. But you, all these years, you only saw me as a substitute for Julian. You were blind as a bat to treat me like that bastard." Her eyes widened. Tears streamed down her dirty face. "When you used Julian's photo as your chat background," I continued, "when you engraved his initials on our ring, did you ever think about me? Did you ever think about the man who built your career, who loved you, who bled for you?" I released her and stepped back. "Victoria, people like you don't deserve happiness," I said, looking down at her as if she were garbage. "You made your choices. Now live with them." She staggered and fell to the ground. She looked up at Amelia, who was standing silently behind me, watching with a mixture of pity and disgust. Victoria sobbed on the floor, her body shaking. "Bitch!" Victoria spat at Amelia. "It's all because you seduced Ethan that he stopped loving me. I hate you. I hate you both." A sharp scream rang out. A flash of a knife was seen. In her madness, Victoria had pulled a small blade from her pocket, a paring knife, probably stolen from a restaurant kitchen. She raised the blood-stained knife and charged at Amelia, her face twisted with murderous intent. Bang! The next second, she screamed in pain. Her hand was shot, a bloody hole appearing in her palm. The knife clattered to the ground. She fell to her knees, clutching her wounded hand, howling. The police had arrived just in time. Amelia had secretly called them before I entered the dressing room. She had seen Victoria hiding in the corner and had texted the officer in charge of the case. They arrived just in time to witness Victoria's attack. The police easily subdued Victoria, pulling her arms behind her back and snapping handcuffs on her wrists. She was still screaming, still crying, still cursing my name. As Victoria was escorted away by the police, the commotion drew a crowd. Staff members, security guards, and other attendees gathered in the hallway, whispering and pointing. But I didn't care. Let them see. Let them all see. It was time for us to walk the red carpet. I held Amelia's hand and led her out of the dressing room. Her hand was trembling slightly, but she held her head high. She was scared, but she was brave. We walked past Victoria, who was being dragged towards a police car by 2 officers. She looked up at us, her eyes filled with hatred and despair. Her white dress was torn, her makeup smeared, her hand wrapped in a bloody cloth. I smiled. Not a cruel smile, but a calm, satisfied one. "Sorry," I said as we walked past her, my voice clear and steady. "You're blocking the real movie queen's way." Victoria's face crumpled. She opened her mouth to say something, but the police shoved her into the car and slammed the door. The car drove away, disappearing into the night. Amelia squeezed my hand. I looked at her. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears, but she was smiling. A real smile. A happy one. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready," she said. We walked out of the building and onto the red carpet. The flashlights exploded like 1,000 suns. The crowd cheered. The cameras rolled. Arm in arm, husband and wife, we walked into the light. 6 months later, the Film Festival Awards were reissued. Amelia won Best Actress for her performance, a decision met with universal acclaim. She stood on stage, holding the golden statue, and looked out at the audience. She found me in the front row. I was clapping, my heart full of pride. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Thank you to my husband. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for coming back to me. And thank you for never giving up." She didn't mention Victoria. She didn't need to. Victoria was old news, a cautionary tale, a footnote in entertainment history. She was serving a 10-year sentence for attempted murder, fraud, and defamation. Julian had survived the stabbing but was facing his own legal troubles. He would be deported once he was released from the hospital. As for me, I had retired from being an agent. I had taken over the family business, as my father had always wanted. But I kept one foot in the entertainment industry, producing films and supporting young talent. And every night, I went home to Amelia, to my wife, to my movie queen.